Was John Cena's short-lived heel run a failure? I feel that this is going to be a question that many wrestling fans are going to be asking for all of eternity. Now that apparently John Cena has reemerged as a babyface, the one that we knew and loved for all these years, one has to ask, in retrospect, was this John Cena heel turn even necessary? When we look back at what had transpired over the last few months, a lot of people are going to be pointing at the matches that John had, whether it was at WrestleMania against Cody, the Backlash match against Randy Orton, his short-lived feud with R-Truth, and of course that CM Punk matchup that took place at Night of Champions. So when it was time to have the rematch at SummerSlam against the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, many people were wondering, was he going to A, lose the championship, and B, actually turn back into a babyface? There's only 4 months left of this retirement tour as of this recording, so we knew that John wasn't going to end as a heel. Now, at the conclusion of this historic heel turn for John Cena, I'm left with more questions than answers. You look all the way back at the Elimination Chamber event when John Cena had officially turned heel, aligning himself with The Rock and Travis Scott, both attacking Cody Rhodes after the event. And I look at that and I wonder, okay, what was the original plan supposed to be? John Cena and The Rock, two of the most influential, not only wrestlers, but people in Hollywood, had aligned themselves, forming this dynamic duo that would cause a lot of havoc in the months to come in the WWE. But the only issue was that never happened. The last time we saw The Rock was at that Elimination Chamber event. We would see Travis Scott at WrestleMania 41, and we'll get to that in a second. But we never had a follow-up as to why it was that Cena decided to turn heel in the first place. There were so many things that I thought they could have really gravitated towards, and they may have implied it, but never outright said it. To me, it would have made a lot more sense had John Cena betrayed Cody Rhodes, attacked him viciously out of desperation, recognizing that he was no longer the John Cena that we had known and loved for so many years. That he was an aging veteran, limited to a few movesets and a schedule that would not allow him to appear on a full-time basis. So recognizing that he was already behind the 8 ball, he had to play desperate. And because desperate times call for desperate measures, realized he couldn't pull his punches, that he had to be a more aggressive John Cena in order to stay up to task with the young gun like Cody Rhodes. And by aligning himself with The Rock, it could have been an opportunity for him to kind of get close to the TKO board member Dwayne Johnson and maybe make it a little bit more easier for him to acquire that number 17 title reign. And over the course of time, maybe he's a little bit more corporate rather than being the John Cena that's wearing the jorts and the t-shirts. Maybe really feed into that Hollywood side of John Cena. But once again, they never went through with it. We never saw The Rock again. There were a couple of mentions of The Rock throughout the course of John Cena's heel run, but never anything concrete. The biggest connective tissue that was exposed here was Travis Scott, who had made a run-in at WrestleMania 41 during the main event of John Cena and Cody Rhodes for said WWE title. Certainly a moment that we're going to look back and think, what the hell were they thinking, having Travis Scott interfere in the biggest match, arguably of the year, the biggest show with the two biggest stars. And now that reportedly Travis Scott is on the outs with the WWE and that the relationship has soured as of now, it even begs the question, what really were they thinking? The WWE Unreal docuseries even revealed that Travis Scott was a part of that small group of individuals who were aware of the heel turn. That, of course, was being Nick Khan, The Rock, Triple H, John Cena, Cody Rhodes, and then Travis Scott. I am still baffled at the idea that they had prominent plans for someone like Travis Scott. I think ultimately we're going to look back at this heel run as a fever dream. It was really for shock value. That moment at the Elimination Chamber will forever be remembered as the day that wrestling world stood still. John Cena turning heel was one of the biggest opportunities for the WWE, especially nowadays where they don't have to solely rely on the merchandise sales of John Cena. That's why he never turned heel back in the day. There was no one else to supplement that type of revenue that Cena was bringing in. But nowadays, with stars like Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Jey Uso, and a litany of other stars that I haven't even mentioned, they still could have that type of revenue being brought in, turning John Cena heel. But then what happened afterwards, he vowed to ruin wrestling. And I will say, maybe that was always a part of the plan. Because what we saw as a heel John Cena, for me, just left a lot to be desired. I, for one, enjoyed his match with Randy Orton, as well as a CM Punk, and I thought the R-Truth stuff was interesting for a time being, but they never really followed up on it. It wasn't until the Cody Rhodes feud that he really started signaling that change in demeanor, and then finally announcing that he was basically a babyface the SmackDown before. It felt all just so jumbled up to the point where I, along with other members of the fans, thought it was a ruse by John Cena, and that maybe this was his way of getting under the skin of Cody Rhodes while also reeling him in, allowing him to lower his guard and take advantage of that as a heel would. But obviously, that's not the case. John Cena is a babyface, which is the right call, but everything just felt so unnatural. And now thinking about it, was this even okay for John Cena? It was said in the WWE Unreal docuseries that Triple H and company had a plan, and they texted John Cena about this, and he was already in, saying, if you believe in it, then I'm in. I don't think it was necessary to have John Cena turn heel. It was essentially for that shock value, for that moment in time to garner all this attention, all this engagement on social media. But in terms of the ongoing storyline, to me it didn't make sense. It wasn't needed. It felt unnecessary. So I, for one, am super excited to see what he has in store for these last 4 months, especially because of the shocking return of Brock Lesnar, which is its own issue in itself. But for today, we're talking about John Cena. His next opponent on task will be Brock Lesnar, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of people here who have their opinions on this matchup and whether or not it was okay to bring back the Beast incarnate. But maybe this helps John Cena, as it will allow people to really get behind him and support him in his battle against the Beast. So is it a fair question to ask whether this heel run was a failure or not? I'll leave that up for you to decide. But there were some memorable moments that came out of this heel run, like the early promos that John Cena had cut leading into WrestleMania 41. Of course, his version of the pipe bomb. And again, that short-lived feud with R-Truth, which really brought a lot of attention to the WWE because of that, blurred lines between kayfabe and reality. So there were some positives from the heel run, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't feel like it may have been all that necessary to turn the WWE's biggest babyface into a heel. But hey, I would love to hear from you all in the comments down below. Let me know what you thought of John Cena's short-lived heel run and what was your favorite moment from that heel run itself. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to keep up to date with all things pro wrestling here on YouTube. Also, if you subscribe to the channel, you will be able to participate in those live streams where you can join in on the discussion of ongoing pro wrestling. And of course, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you for hanging out with us in today's video, and I'll be sure to see you all in the next one.